It's time now for the All Things Legal Show. Your host of the show, an attorney with over 20 years' experience practicing personal injury, a graduate of UC Berkeley, Pepperdine Law School, and a partner in the law firm of Ashton and Price. Here's Craig Ashton.
All right. Welcome, valued listeners. This is Craig Ashton. The show is All Things Legal. Personal injury attorneys distilling topical events into the legal essence. I am joined, as is typical and makes me grateful, by Edward Allen Shady.
Guten Tag, good morning, and aloha.
EAS, if it's in the game, it's in the game. A shady attorney giving you some legal direction. Ultimately, before we get into the stories, talking about the unusual ancestry I have, which is Richard Henry Lee, who was hanging out with John Adams. Basically, John Adams wanted to declare independence, got Richard Henry Lee involved because basically Massachusetts was already in a state of rebellion before we had the Declaration of Independence. Richard Henry Lee, my grandfather, seventh generation, ultimately wrote the Lee Resolution, which led to the Declaration of Independence. But he was hanging out with John Adams. But you were talking about Don Adams.
Correct.
So Don Adams from Get Smart.
Correct.
So you were in a courtroom when he was there.
Yeah, I had to go down to the main courthouse in L.A. on Hill Street. I went down there.
That's where they got the Hill Street Blues.
Correct. About 2 months before that hearing, I was down there to take status on a divorce. Got a guy, went through, did the entire thing. The judge declared him divorced on, say, Tuesday. Well, he runs out and gets married on Wednesday, and the judge signed the divorce decree on Friday. So he was a bigamist for 3 or 4 days. So I had to file what's called a non-protunct order and went down there to have a relationship back. So the judge signed it back. But Don Adams was on the stand because his ex-wife was going after more support. And when I'm sitting there with a client, he's being asked questions. One of the questions that really stood out was, now, isn't it true you won $80,000 at Hollywood Park last year? He said, that is true. And I'm elbowing my client, go, we're following him to the track. And then when his attorney gets up, he goes, how much did you actually lose at the track last year at Hollywood Park? He goes, $120,000. I go, we're not following him.
And the odd coincidence, perhaps ironic, he was on Get Smart.
He was Get Smart.
And he wasn't a smart bettor.
No. Him in 99, Agent 13, Chief, all of them.
Yeah, that's going way back. So anybody under 40 has no idea what we're talking about. But Google Don Adams, and ultimately, I got a John Adams story. You got a Don Adams story.
Don Adams.
It's the Adams family. All right, so let me break down the stories for you. You can determine whether or not you want to spend the next hour of your existence engaged in this legal experience. Robot soccer player that will likely render humans obsolete.
Never.
Kicks ball so hard, it dents wall. So if you had a human playing a robot, you have assumption of the risk. And if you got kicked, if a robot kick ball hits you and injured you, likely you would not have any cause of action because you're assuming the risk of playing with a robot. But what I was thinking, because we already talked about the parallels between Saudi Arabia and their bad bets on live golf, like Don Adams' bad bets at Hollywood Park, he got the Hill Street Blues as a result of that. So ultimately, we've got these bad bets from Saudi Arabia, live golf, $5 billion out the window, spending $16 billion based upon the liquidated damages clauses in their contracts, decided that it was better to follow the rule of law and contract law than to say, hey, guess what? I'm king or prince. We ain't paying. Try to get it from me. Mm-hmm. They realize they might have contracts going forward that ultimately would need to be entered into, and you're not going to be able to get the best contractors if you want to build the highest building or you want to build a new indoor ski area.
Yeah, you got to maintain your creditworthiness, and your ability for people to trust that you will pay if you enter into a contract.
Yeah, that's the whole thing about rule of law. That's what makes our country so great. We've got that basically from the British rule of law. Basically, when you enter into a contract, it's sacrosanct. And at the end of the day, there are ways out of it. It's unconscionable. In other words, it's so unfair that it could not be essentially entered into as a matter of public policy, or it is a contract against public policy, like for prostitution, et cetera, gambling. So if you lose a bunch of money to Vinny, who's a member of the mafia, you don't technically owe on that contract under the rule of law, but under the rule of Vinny, you probably owe the contract.
The law of the street, you got to pay the VIG.
You're not going to lose any money if you don't play Vinny, but you might lose your leg.
A thumb.
So anyway, I thought it'd be interesting to talk about World Cup competitors better enjoy the spotlight while it lasts. Robo players could soon give them the boot. So that could be 2034 because it's so hot in Saudi Arabia anyway. You won't have any heat exhaustion. And it's coming. If you can have robots play better than humans, and you can have a robot team in San Francisco play the robot team from LA, and they're better, and you have that civic pride, and you don't have to worry about these massive contracts, basically injuries. You can fix them. Robo Jimmy's on injured reserve. They just put in a bolt in his knee, and he's back to play.
And, never happened. I would never watch it because it's the human element that you're engaged in. And, the awe of going, oh my God, I can't believe somebody actually has the prowess to do what they're actually doing sometimes. And that's what you're looking at, not some machine.
Well,
I mean, I like battle bots, but that's different.
Rock'em Sock'em Robots pretty good.
As a kid, that was fun too.
Yeah, and Slinkies are not bad.
Yeah, but you still had to have fast thumbs to win.
But anyway, so we got some technology that's coming that's going to have some legal issues associated with assumption of the risk, injuries, and whether or not we're willing to actually bet money on robots because there's going to be betting contracts that are going to be legal.
With all the AI, it might even have a players union.
All right. Police can't find shoplifter who fled a yoga shop in San Francisco in a Waymo.
That's a great story.
So whether or not Waymo is an accomplice to the felonious, tortious, because basically it's a larceny. So taking the property of another with the intent to permanently deprive, that is larceny, and leaving in a Waymo. And you would figure it'd be easier to basically track them, but they used a burner phone for their Waymo account, and they disappeared into the ether.
I love it.
Yeah, they went Waymo into the future.
I'm not in support of crime, but this one was pretty good.
And only in San Francisco, it's from a yoga shop, right? All right, BYD, which is basically the car company, which is electric car company from China, has what's called a full self-driving mode. It's called advanced driver assistance. And essentially it's a level 2. So there's basically 5 levels of autonomous driving, 5 being the highest. There's no any human oversight whatsoever. Level 4 is kind of what Waymo's got. So it's basically got geofencing in certain areas, and then there is human oversight, but basically the cars drive themselves until they stop at a light when there's a power outage, and then humans have to go out there and push them out of the traffic. So, but the point is that right now Tesla is level 2, BYD's level 2. People do use full self-driving for Tesla. It's been overstated in terms of it's autonomous and all these other things when it's really not, just puffery. But because there are issues associated with safety, and there's some jury verdicts indicating that when somebody got in an accident, Tesla was 30% responsible in Florida in a $243 million judgment. So the idea is that when you're dealing with the full self-driving and the fine print says it's not full self-driving, you get in an accident, you're responsible. That's what Tesla says to you. That's what the state of California says to you. In China, they're saying, hey, if you get in an accident while full self-driving or the advanced driver assistance is engaged, any accident happens, it's on BYD. They take the legal responsibility. So we'll take a look at that. I think that's interesting. UC Berkeley Law School bans most AI use following plagiarism issues, and this is from the San Francisco Chronicle. Essentially, there's going to be no AI in preparing for class assignments or exams, except in the ethical use of AI courses. So you can take an AI course and use AI. The problem is that they're learning that they don't have any foundational understanding of the principles of the law. And if a computer is giving you the distillation of the principles of the law and you don't understand them, you don't know whether or not it's giving you hallucinations.
Like that, you're not training your brain to think the way that an attorney thinks.
Right. You're supposed to be able to argue both sides. To automate that, the reasoning, the ability to make arguments on both sides, ultimately cannot be taught by a computer, large language. UC Berkeley banning it, I think, is a great idea. We'll walk you through that. And then Governor Newsom is finding out the First Amendment. Basically, is pretty broad. There's a billboard on, I think, Highway 50, $225 million traffic jam, opposed return to office. There's a return to office July 1st, 2026 mandate. A lot of people say, hey, look, saving gas is better for the environment. There's less traffic, and I can do as good a work at home. Governor Newsom says we need the collaboration. What makes human beings human is the ability to reason and their ability to collaborate. When you lose the collaboration, you don't get the best outcomes. So the unions are saying, hey, I don't think so. I think we should basically stay home. Less insurance, less driving, less gas. Gas is expensive. We're just as productive. It's a battle, but First Amendment is being applied. And then AI Judge Judy from Claude's Anthropic. So the same Anthropic that's basically used for defense contracts. After DOI stolen car chase, Florida woman says, hold the lawyer, request burgers and fries instead. Florida woman arrested after skinny dipping in stranger's pool. Explain that to your wife when she comes home and finds a woman that's not your wife in your pool, naked. And Florida man goes skinny dipping while outrunning cops. Another naked Florida man trying to swim away from arrest. Aquaman again meets Florida man. Stay with us when we come back. We'll talk about robots and soccer and injuries. Oh my. Injured and you're considering an LA law firm looking to charge you 45% to 50% in attorney's fees? That's overcharging. Ashton & Price has been around for over 25 years, and I can tell you no matter how complicated your injury case, you should never be charged 45% or 50% in attorney's fees ever. Direct, experienced, unrelenting, and honest local representation matters. It's called home court advantage for a reason. Ashton & Price serious local attorneys for serious people with serious injuries. So for the best local advice, don't think twice. Call Ashton & Price. What happens when the direct nephew of George Washington matches legal wits with the most prominent shady attorney on the planet? I'll tell you, the All Things Legal Show. Decades of legal expertise distilling the latest sports and celebrity legal battles, the Constitution, AI, and the 1,000 ways Florida man flaunts the law while in flagrante. In the immortal words of the Princess Brides Vicini, Socrates, Plato, morons. Join Craig Ashton and Edward Shady on Spotify, TuneIn, Pandora, and Apple Podcasts, and listen to the All Things Legal Show anytime. You've been served.
We all live in a yellow submarine, a yellow submarine, a yellow submarine.
All right, we are back. When I say we are back, Craig Fontaine, Ashton, Edward Allen Shady. Shady attorney to give you some legal direction on a show we called All Things Legal. We're personal injury attorneys by trade, curious by nature. Doing this for a long time. Trial attorneys in our office. So bottom line is we don't try cases a lot, not because we don't know how to. It's just basically when the insurance companies know that we know how to try a case, they're likely not to want to spend the extra money, which could be hundreds of thousands of dollars in certain cases. And they try to reach a compromise before that makes sense from the perspective of our client in terms of taking the risk of the jury verdict off the table, because juries are unpredictable. It's expensive. And ultimately, the costs, you don't owe us anything for our time unless we're successful. And if we don't win, we eat the cost too. But at the end of the day, if we do win and it's a lower jury verdict than we thought, and we get the cost back. So it's kind of like the parts that you need to basically build the legal engine, so to speak. So the idea is that because we have a background as trial attorneys, we have outcomes that are superior, in my estimation, based upon the fact that other law firms don't have that same reputation. Ed, you worked in... you were on the insurance side for a while, and you said that there was actually a gradation of law firms that would have a different case valuation based upon the reputation.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. A case would come across my desk. I was managing a large loss attorney for both AIG Insurance, one of the largest insurers in the world, as well as 21st Century Insurance here in the state of California. And certain firms, I would automatically just say, okay, I'm taking 20% off what I think the reasonable value of the case is. And another firm, I'll add 10, 15% because I know that firm knows what they're doing, will go forward. And then there were the middle of the road firms. But at the end of the day, it's kind of funny, and you have to remind clients every once in a while when they go, what's my case worth? Well, nobody actually knows. There's only, and I'll be practicing law 33 years this month. There's only two ways to know what your case is worth, and only two ways. Whatever it settles for, or whatever a judge, jury, or arbitrator tells you it's worth at the end of the day if it's a binding arbitration. Everything in the middle is art, speculation, and the artisanal practice of the attorney to convince the other side that their exposure is greater than they want to assume, and therefore pay more. And that's what we do.
Yeah, and the Seventh Amendment allows you a civil trial, so it's in the contract, which is the Bill of Rights.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the rights that we have against the government, and ultimately, if you have a criminal case, you got a right to an attorney, you got a right against self-incrimination, you have a right against unreasonable search and seizures, and ultimately, you have a right to a jury trial, and you also have a right to a civil jury trial under the Seventh Amendment, and a right against cruel and unusual punishment. You go, well, what's that mean? If you pay attention to history, you go back to what they were doing to people in the 1500s and 1600s, burning at the stake, basically draw and quarter. So essentially, you would tie all four of your limbs to a rope with four horses who would run in different directions.
Yeah, but it says cruel and unusual. It's conjunctive. So if they're doing it a lot, it's not unusual.
So you think to yourself, what do we need a rule for that for? Well, believe me, they were very creative in the way that they imposed penalties on people. And it really didn't work. Still, a lot of criminal activity going on.
Again, find your head on a pike.
Yeah. All right. So if you want to put a face to a voice, go to ashtonandprice.com. We're on YouTube. So basically, you can find us there. And then if you like the show, it's the All Things Legal Show. We're going to do 2 shows in advance because I'm going to Barcelona and then I'm going to Lisbon, which in 1750 basically had a massive earthquake.
Oh.
And ultimately, they rebuilt the entire city. And they built it basically kind of on a military, basically formations, basically straight lines, etc. So ultimately, I'm going to Lisbon. There's a big kind of Celtic influence in Portugal, which is interesting.
It is.
And also in parts of Spain and then Brittany, Celtic.
I guess
So-
it makes sense because they do have the entire western, not the entire western coast, but the vast majority of the western coast of the Iberian Peninsula there.
Yeah, it's called Galatia. So basically, it's a Celtic, and so they just have a really interesting culture. I'm looking forward to see what that looks like. So we're going to be doing a couple of shows in advance. So they're within a week. So they're temporal. But if you go to your Get podcast, type in the All Things Legal Show and follow it, you'll get, unlike other listeners who get the show in advance before it goes on KSFO, KHTK, etc. All right. So let's basically break down the stories here. So we got the robot soccer player that will likely render humans obsolete, kicks ball so hard it dents wall. This is from New York Post. The World Cup competitors better enjoy the spotlight while it lasts. Robo players could soon give them the boot. Video captured the moment state-of-art soccer bot kicked the ball so hard that it put a crater in a wall.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. The one note I got from that was it's a cheap wall.
Yeah. You remember a dodgeball?
Yeah. No, I'm going, if this is a concrete wall, this is cinder block wall or anything like that, I doubt it, but this is a cheap wall, apparently.
The wild clip shows the fun-sized booster T1, which is the flagship creation of the Beijing-based robotics firm Booster Robotics, unleashing a volley of powerful penalty kicks at a goal set up in the company's lab. And the bot soccer skills aren't limited to kicking. The automated athlete also chases down the football, dribbles, passes, shoots, and even stands up unassisted.
Yeah, that's the important thing because when you see these other things with robots and they fall down, they can't get up.
Yeah, they're
They need a life alert thing.
they're weebles wobble, but they don't fall down, right? So
Ah.
these ones fall down, they can get back up.
You know, self-righting.
Yeah, right. So that is kind of new. They stand in about 4 feet tall, weighing just under 70 pounds. An all-bot soccer tourney in Brazil, basically powered by T1. They took home silver and gold in the adult division. Robots' increased power and abilities have raised alarm bells among tech experts. That's a new word. It's a neologism. A neologism just means a word that you just made up.
So they're 4 feet tall, 70 pounds, and if you put them against a professional soccer team, it'll look like grown men playing fourth graders.
It's like that Hervé Villachez.
Oh, yeah.
It's a plane. It's a plane.
It's a plane.
Yeah. Or Vern Troyer. Robots' increased power abilities have raised alarms among tech experts, especially in light of rash of glitches that has plagued our electronic doppelgangers of late. And the story goes on to say, in the past couple months alone, a handler in China was kicked in the groin by an advanced unitary robot he was controlling. They had to look at the nuts and bolts of that one.
Yeah, no kidding. I wonder if he got dented.
So that would basically be a products liability case. If you are the handler, it'd be a work comp claim because he's basically on the job. He got kicked in the groin by his robot.
But he's in China. Who knows what the remedies are in China?
And then a droid shockingly slapped a child during a dance demo, gone awry. So that would be, it's not assault and battery because that's an intentional act. Robots can't have intent at this point because we haven't personified them, but that would be an injury as a result of a product, and that would be more dangerous than a reasonable consumer would expect.
I don't know. I mean, you see all these TikTok videos and everybody dancing. I don't think I'd be all that upset if somebody got slapped.
Well, the guy that got kicked in the groin, definitely.
Yeah, he's upset.
Especially if they can kick a soccer ball through a wall. You imagine what it does to this guy's...
Private netherworld?
That's
Who
it.
knows?
Yeah, it's at Twigs and Berries. All right. So, quote, the event would be viewed not as comic relief, but as a dangerous systems failure. Dr. Roman Yemplowski, a tenured associate professor and computer scientist at the University of Louisville, told the Post. A glitch in a dancing robot is mostly embarrassing. A glitch in a security robot, delivery system, self-driving platform, medical assistant, or industrial machine can injure people, damage property, or trigger cascading failures. So I agree. There's lots of liability associated with the agentic assertion of the robotic world when harm flows through it. And the question, are you going to be like BYD and say it's on us, or basically it's on the user?
You know, going down that, because you're saying what Tesla's level 2 and then level 5 is when it's finally been granted 100% full autonomy. I would think at 100% full autonomy, then the operator or whoever owns the vehicle that's doing that would be on the hook, and possibly the manufacturer, because it might be a manufacturing defect that would be associated with it. But at the current level we're at, I don't think it would be proper and or fair to have the builder of the vehicle assume responsibility when it's clearly stated in the owner's manual, you are, in fact, still responsible. It's a non-delegable duty. You still have the duty to maintain control and look out for everybody else's safety on the road. It's codified, 1714 of the Civil Code.
So if I ask Betsy, my pool robot, to tell Aloysius, my butler robot, to get the DoorDash, and Aloysius knees the DoorDash delivery person in the groin, then ultimately, is that a products liability case against the manufacturer of Aloysius? Or is that a personal injury case against me because Aloysius is my agent?
It'd be a personal injury action against you with a possible cross-complaint against the manufacturer for indemnity by you for the actions of the robot. But still, because it's on your property, you bought it, you took possession, custody, and control, you would be my first point of contact to sue.
Yeah.
And I know that you have assets, so I would go after you.
Yeah. I will tell Aloysius to take the fifth.
Yeah.
Robot, don't say anything. All right. So that's that kind of interesting legal issues associated with basically if it's an agentic robot, is the owner of the robot responsible?
Yes.
Or is it a products liability case? I tend to agree with you on the yes, everybody's responsible. All right. So let's go ahead and police basically can't find a yoga shop heist in San Francisco. Can't find the yoga burglar, the yoga larceny, basically perpetrator, because he got away in a Waymo. According to officials speaking with the San Francisco Chronicle, police are still investigating a case in which an unidentified man, obviously, stole an armful of activewear from a local yoga studio. Didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I got probably some Lululemon Spanx.
The moss that's supposed to stay. Then fled the scene inside a self-driving Waymo taxi. Quote, I would think it would be easier to solve in a Waymo, Sergeant Tim Fay told the newspaper on June 4th. It's almost certain that the robber used a burner account or stolen phone to order the taxi service, which debuted in its self-driving option in San Francisco customers in June of 2024. Crazy, 2 years ago.
Well, this is what it caught me is they have 29 high-definition cameras on the exterior and interior of this Waymo. So the guy had to know that Waymo only maintains that video footage temporarily. Otherwise, the storage on that would be insane for every, the millions of miles they drive. So they'll only keep it for a short period of time. And this guy had to have some type of insider information on that, knowing to get into the Waymo, knowing that you're on camera, that it's only going to be maintained for a while before the police figure out that it was Waymo you left in.
Well, in order to catch this guy, they need way more cameras.
Yeah, way more camera. Waymo storage.
And quote from the San Francisco PD, Sergeant Fay, it's highly unusual in the first place that a Waymo is even used by a suspect.
No? Why not? I mean, Uber or Lyft, you might get identified, but
That's sophisticated planning. The guy stole some yoga outfits.
I would have laughed if he took off on a Lime scooter.
And then had the presence of mind to own it, because usually Waymos take longer. Take usually about 10 minutes or so. They're a little bit longer because they're a little bit more popular.
Can you order it in advance?
I don't know. I'm not sure if you can. I have never tried to do that. I bet you probably can. But to have the presence of mind to go ahead and order the Waymo in advance, I think is showing that this is smarter than your average burglar.
Yes.
Or larcenist. All right, BYD just answered the question Tesla keeps fighting in court. So every new piece of car technology eventually runs into the same awkward question. When it works, the car maker takes credit. When it fails, who takes the blame? Well, right now with full self-driving, it ain't full self-driving. If you're behind the wheel, you're in the car, you're basically behind the wheel, you're responsible for any harm that occurs as a result in almost all cases.
Well, yeah, I mean, most women that are married will understand this. When everything's going right at home, the husband's sitting there smiling, going, yeah, I did everything right. And then when it goes badly, I have no idea what happened. It's not my fault.
Yeah, let me clarify that. If you're behind the wheel and somebody rear-ends you, you're not responsible for that harm. The person behind you is. But if it's a single car accident and you're behind the wheel, you can't blame the car. You can't blame Tesla. Under California law, you are basically the care, custody, controller of that vehicle. And you might be able to sue Tesla for a products liability case on a cross complaint, or you could sue them directly if you have serious injury for a direct complaint for products liability. But if you injure somebody else, they're going to be looking at you.
Good analogy, because it's a non-delegable duty. You go and you have brakes done on your car, and the shop gives you your car before they do the brakes and forget to put the brake pads back on, and you drive down the road and hit somebody, still your fault. But you can cross-complain against the shop that didn't put the brakes in right.
Right, so yeah, non-delegable duty. All right, we'll come back. We'll finish off that story. Then UC Berkeley Law School bans most AI, and I think that's a great decision. We'll tell you why. And Governor Newsom, billboard, people don't want to go back to work. Stay with us. When a person is seriously injured, there's no substitute for the personal legal relationship offered by the local NorCal firm of Ashton and Price. From the first attorney meeting, every important decision is made with a direct consultation with, and I can't believe I have to say this, a real, live, experienced, flesh and blood local attorney. It's called Home Court Advantage for a reason. Ashton and Price, serious local attorneys for serious people with serious injuries with no fee until we win. For the best local advice, don't think twice. Call Ashton and Price.
What happens when the direct nephew of George Washington matches legal wits with the most prominent shady attorney on the planet? I'll tell you, the All Things Legal Show. Decades of legal expertise distilling the latest sports and celebrity legal battles, the Constitution, AI, and the 1,000 ways Florida man flaunts the law while in flagrante. In the immortal words of the Princess Brides Vicini, Socrates, Plato, morons. Join Craig Ashton and Edward Shady on Spotify, TuneIn, Pandora, and Apple Podcasts, and listen to the All Things Legal Show anytime. You've been served.
All right, we are back. When I say we are back, Craig Fontaine, Ashton, Edward Allen Shady. The Shady attorney gives some legal direction. We are attorneys by trade, curious by nature. You want to kind of get a sense about the bow tie. I think today I'm wearing basically a 17th century hairstyle. Ed got blue eyes that are dwarfing the blue of his shirt. So you can give you some context as to how we present on YouTube. And then also go to our website, ashtonandprice.com. Got our pictures, curriculum vitae, and our multi-million-dollar resolutions for many, many artisanally, basically curated cases to the distillation of the imperfect remedy money to bring justice as it can be done within the civil system. All right, so BYD, which is bring your own
Driver?
Yeah, right. It's a Chinese company, and so right now we're not seeing those because there's essentially too much of a tariff on these vehicles, but apparently they're great cars, and they are pretty reliable. China's got a different civil system because it's based upon essentially a dictatorship through the Communist Party. And it's supposed to be a benevolent dictatorship based upon to get rich is glorious from Deng Xiaoping. Took over from Mao Zedong, which didn't think too rich to get rich is glorious. My brother was there during Tiananmen Square and ultimately saw the transition. My brother speaks Mandarin Chinese, so I'm really familiar with it through the interaction with my brother, who was basically in the streets of Beijing during Tiananmen Square and seeing the transition. So basically, to get rich is glorious is really a lot of what they kind of pride themselves on in China. And they take more risks because they don't have the same redress system that we have. So ultimately, they've got autonomous vehicles that are called advanced driver assistance, not full self-driving, not this puffery stuff that Elon Musk engages in. And essentially, BYD announced that its autopilot and full self-driving systems are sold as the future of getting around. Yet the company is, in terms of Tesla's, remain consistent. The driver is in charge, and so the driver's liable. But on May 28th, BYD, and its stock is BYDDY, so Biddy, stood in front of a crowd in Shenzhen and said it would pay for all crashes. So if you're in full self-driving mode or advanced driver assistance, which you'll be able to tell because you can basically see when you're in it, and if the car does something without you, the passenger, basically doing anything to cause it to crash, BYD will take responsibility.
Yeah, and they can actually just pull the event data recorder or the black box for the car and take a look at that. And personal injury damages are governed by the Civil Code of the People's Republic of China, and the way they do it is similar to work comp. So you would not get the same compensation you might get here in the United States, especially in a civil law country that's adopted its civil law from, or its common law from England. So you will get damages, but they will be more restricted and or limited, similar to like a work comp case.
Yeah, so basically right now it's level 2. Human supervision is required at all times in your car. Whatever Elon Musk says, it's not legally binding. It's full self-driving, drive across the country, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of people are digitally recording this stuff too. Like, here, my hands are off, and basically digitally recording evidence that if something bad happens, is going to make you responsible under our vehicle code in California. And the problem is when people aren't paying attention, they look down and the car does something and it crashes. And at that point, it creates an issue. And specifically, you're first on the hook.
Yeah, and it always surprises me because then they'll bring in and say, well, it was advertised this way or it was done this way. But when you buy the car and you get everything, it's the four corners of the contract that control. And then part of that is going to be the owner's manual says that this is not full self-driving. So to come out and try to use somebody's puffery on it is arguably under the law of parallel evidence, PAROL, that should not be allowed to change the terms of the contract. Otherwise, you start getting into so much vagary that it's hard to control.
All right, yeah, agreed. So essentially, if the BYD model takes over, it'd be great because if you could prove that if you're in full self-driving, any crashes occurred on the manufacturer, if Tesla said that, our auto insurance would go way down.
Yeah, but then I have to sue somebody in China because the manufacturer is in China. Good luck with that.
Right. Well, Tesla could do it if they really believe what they're saying. They could do that, but they would not.
Why would they? I mean, there's no reason to. You're better off spending all the money defending these and arguing against them than it would ever be to one day to say we're just going to accept responsibility. And this is what we're talking about: two sides of the argument. This is what attorneys are trained for, to look at it at different perspectives.
So Tesla, as you said, defines BYD as bring your own driver.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it says full self-driving, you're the driver. California law says the same thing. So full self-driving, you are responsible no matter what. So you can't blame it on the car. You can't blame it on Elon Musk. You can't blame it on the puffery. It's non-delegable. You're behind the wheel. If there's an accident where you harm somebody and it's your fault, it's not going to be your car's fault. It's going to be your fault, even if the car did it. All right, UC Berkeley Law School.
Ashton and Price is coming after you.
Yeah, and we've done a lot of that. UC Berkeley Law bans most AI use following plagiarism issues. So there's going to be no AI in preparing for class assignments or exams. That seems axiomatic. Like my dad was in South Africa and there was a sign that said, don't spit on the bus. He goes, why do you need a rule for that? That seems pretty obvious, right? So yeah, you shouldn't be using AI during exams, except the only time you ever get to use it is in the ethical use for AI courses. So if you're learning about AI in AI course, you can use AI. So basically no AI aid in conceptualizing, outlining, drafting, revising, or basically writing any sort of papers for the law school. That seems like a good idea. And what they found is that the concepts, the basic concepts of the law, like contract law, like civil procedure, like tort law, ultimate constitutional law, people don't understand it because they're not, as you said, using their brain to figure out the concepts. Because you can't have a dialogue with a large language model that's valuable when it's giving you information when you don't know the foundation of the concept.
And you don't know the question to ask.
Yeah, you could believe anything it tells you.
Yeah, because somebody might come in. We have clients, and every attorney in the state probably has a client that'll say, well, I did this in AI and it said X, Y, Z. But you don't know what they put in. They don't know what the prompt was that went in. So if you have a garbage question going in, you're going to have a garbage question coming out from AI. And one of the things that they pointed out in this article was the plagiarism issue. And it was kind of esoteric in the sense that one of the students asked to solve a legal problem. We'll report it back. I found the solution in chat with AI. And so what really happened is that the AI found the solution in existing cases, presented it to the student as a new idea. So that was actually plagiarism because he was presented as a new idea that he came up with that was actually discerned from cases that already came up with that idea. So he didn't come up with anything. AI didn't come up with anything. It just stood on the shoulders of giants that were doing this before AI.
Yeah, the thing that I like about the AI Judge Judy thing we do with Florida Man, through Claude's Anthropic, is that ultimately it's meant for fun,
entertainment,
and it is actually really, really good in creating kind of the tone of what you would think Judge Judy might say. But that's a lot different than basically coming up with a legal argument based upon a person's constitutional rights being violated, and you come up with case law that doesn't exist. Apparently, there's 957 cases in the United States where lawyers were submitting non-existent cases as legal authority, right? Almost 1,000. And then this article says that from the San Francisco Chronicle, actually likely much, much higher, because not all of them get reported. But the thing is that that's happening now. And then if courts don't pick up on it, then injustice can occur, especially when your civil rights are being violated or you're looking at jail time and you've got a prosecuting attorney making arguments of cases that are hallucinations from a large language model, and the judge is overwhelmed by the criminal docket and then basically buys into those hallucinated basically court cases. And then you've got a overworked public defender who doesn't catch it either. And then you end up spending time in jail and losing your liberty as a result of something that's not real.
Well, that, and if it was in any way, shape, or form relied on by the court in coming up with a decision, either to admit or to exclude evidence, you're looking at grounds for appeal.
Yeah, 100%. So basically, UC Berkeley Law School announced a new policy Thursday prohibiting students from using artificial intelligence in preparing class assignments and in all exams. And a policy announced Thursday and effective this summer that the law school will prohibit its 1,120 students from using artificial intelligence in preparing class assignments and in all exams, except for courses designed to teach students of how to use AI ethically and legally while practicing law, because there is a place for it. It's really good organizing massive amounts of information and distilling it for you. And if you do not know what to look for and you don't have the foundation of the core concepts of the law and you haven't mastered those, then you basically have no idea what you're reading, whether or not it's basically pablum or whether or not it's basically something that is sacrosanct and could be followed. And it is very dangerous when you don't have the core concepts, and that's what UC Berkeley's trying to protect against.
I mean, you could build a house and get all of everything from AI, how to do it, et cetera. But until you have a skilled artisan that knows how to frame a house, shingle a house, put a roof on, put all the electrical on, you're going to have problems. You want somebody that actually is practiced in the real world, and not in the ether.
Yeah, you don't want a guy who basically was a co-pilot to a autopilot and then takes over the plane and go, well, how many planes do you fly? Not many,
None.
but I watched the autopilot do it. So let me tell you, you've never landed a plane? No, I watched the autopilot do it.
Sir, that's why the captain goes, sir, that's why you don't pay until we land.
Yeah, I mean, if AI Judge Judy gets something wrong, no harm. But if your medical doctor does because they're relying upon AI for a diagnosis, or your attorney does, which basically puts you down the wrong pathway, and you have financial or basically liberty harm to you. In other words, you end up in jail or you lose money. That's not, no way, can't do it. That's way too important. Same thing with engineering. My engineer just basically did the measurements through AI and got them all wrong, right? And then your building collapses. I mean, you can't have things that are that important. The professional human touch, the artisanal human touch, and things like that, you can't do away with that. And that's what UC Berkeley's finding out. Teachers say the students are still turning in papers citing cases that teachers had never heard of, evidently the product of AI. God, it was your UC Berkeley Law School and you're doing that, man? Come on. Or a student asked to solve a legal problem with a report. I find the solution in the chat with AI. And what really happened is that the AI found the solution in existing cases, presented it to the student as a new idea, and that's what you're talking about. That's actually plagiarism. So right now, 80% of large firms are using AI or exploring the use of the technology. We definitely use it to distill information in-house. We have really great computer system we spend lots and lots of money on, completely protected from a privacy perspective, but it stores all the information, all the evidence in each case that we have, and particular dates for basically court filings, et cetera, statute of limitations. But we can take our large language model in-house and we'll distill the thousands of pages of medical records and give us a summary. It's very valuable. And that you can use it for. But to give you legal conclusions or write legal briefs for you, no way. A typical problem in law school, he said, has been the hallucinated cases. Quote, if you don't have your own analytical judgment, AI will do it for you, and then it's no longer your judgment. It's OpenAI or Anthropic, and basically that does not work for a legal system based upon the rule of law.
Yeah, you're not being you're there to learn how to think. They got to teach your brain to think in a certain way. Attorneys think differently, or they approach problems differently from most individuals out in public. Because we look at a situation, and it's not just a situation, you're looking for a solution where other people are just seeing a problem.
Yeah, so basically another quote, I think this is a good one. This is from another UC Berkeley law professor. There are ways to use technology that can up a lawyer's game. It's totally true. And if I am teaching a more advanced class that aims to prepare them to use this tool in practice, it would be weird to prohibit its use for that. So this is use of AI for sure, 100%. It is a useful tool for sure. So it ups their game, but it's not meant to F up the legal game, the legal system, right? So the idea is that it's very important that we balance this. There's a couple of lawyers that just got suspended for 6 months by citing cases in Los Angeles that were not real. And I think that's fair. You got to face suspension. I mean, we really, as the state bar, we really have to self-police on this one because we are basically the sentries on this who are looking to see what the danger is. And we're on the front lines of this. And if we don't police ourselves within our guild, which is the state bar, it's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, the last 2 weeks after the show, I was going down to the law library so I could actually go on LexisNexis and actually pull real cases for use in drafts that I was writing.
Yeah, and you're like old school that way. And then we are, probably some of the last lawyers that are going to have all of our information that was gotten the old-fashioned way. Remember the Dewey Decimal System? Basically
Card catalog?
Yeah, we barely, I went, started law school in 1989, right? And so, I started at a law school newspaper at Pepperdine. I didn't have one. And I did it on an old Mac with a floppy disk with PageMaker. And, and it took me a while. I had to print out 4 different, basically, kind of tiles, I think they call it. But it was letter size, 4 of them, and put them together and tape it. And then those were each page, and I took it to a printer to have it done. And I called it L. So like L, the fashion magazine, L, just the letter for law. And they still have it. So, but the idea is that that's what we were working with back then. And you learn the law by reading the cases. There wasn't anything to tell you about it. You actually had to read it from a book. Right? We didn't get it online.
My first computer was an IBM in college. My uncle worked for IBM, and it was pretty powerful. It had a 20 megabyte hard drive.
So even though we're the Doogie Housers of the law, ultimately, if you come to Ashton and Price, you're going to get some artisanal approach from an old school perspective using new school tools. All right, we come back. We'll talk about Gavin Newsom getting some pushback on the July 1st deadline to go back to work in the building. And Florida woman arrested after skinny dipping. AI Judge Judy will weigh in. Stay with us.
Personal injury claim is not a lottery prize, and it is never a joke. Whether or not you've been injured in a slip and fall, pedestrian, bicycle, auto, Uber, Lyft, or big rig accident, you need serious, experienced local legal counsel. At Ashton and Price, we have successfully represented Northern California injury victims for over 25 years. The consultation is free, and there is never a fee until we win. And between you and me, we win a lot. So remember, for the best advice, don't think twice. Call Ashton and Price. What happens when the direct nephew of George Washington matches legal wits with the most prominent shady attorney on the planet? I'll tell you, the All Things Legal Show. Decades of legal expertise distilling the latest sports and celebrity legal battles, the Constitution, AI, and the 1,000 ways Florida man flaunts the law while in flagrante. In the immortal words of the Princess Brides Vicini, Socrates, Plato, morons. Join Craig Ashton and Edward Shady on Spotify, TuneIn, Pandora, and Apple Podcasts, and listen to the All Things Legal Show anytime. You've been served.
All right, we are back. When I say we are back, Craig Fontaine, Ashton, Edward Allen Shady. Shady trying to give some legal direction on a show we called All Things Legal. We are personal injury attorneys by trade, curious by nature. So this AI thing, so Herman Hesse wrote Siddhartha. Herman Hesse, German guy. Basically trying to write a parable, essentially a short book on essentially enlightenment. And the ending concept was that enlightenment can't be taught. It has to be experienced. So same thing with the law. You have to experience basically the intellectual machinations of coming to conclusions based upon foundational concepts of the law, which go back, because of, British common law. Go back to the days, Monty Python when the Black Knight's fighting the White Knight.
That's right. None shall pass.
Yeah, it's really, yeah. So the sheriff is the shire reef. There was 40 shires, and the person that oversaw it on behalf of the crown was the riff, and it was the shire reef, sheriff. So that's what it goes way back, way back. So the idea is that it's important in law school. You were noting another story about UC Berkeley where kids now can't do basic math.
Yeah, they're doing remedial math. They're being taught remedial math, English, because they don't require an SAT score that would be
standardized
at least,
test.
Yeah, it's a standardized test so that everybody, you get a certain level of perfection, you move forward, and you're either accepted or not accepted, or you ask for an exemption because of some circumstance, but they don't have that anymore.
Yeah, they'll get an LLM, which is a large language model degree.
Yeah, no kidding. Good luck with that one. When you show up and somebody knows what they're doing and actually asks you some questions.
Get an LLM from UC Berkeley. All right, yeah, so that kind of tells you that when you start to take away the hard work,
the standard,
tenacity and willpower, basically studying, understanding, learning, then ultimately you find yourself in the area whereby the mid-cingulate interior cortex ultimately shrinks because it is elastic. And if you don't challenge yourself, because large language models doing all your thinking for you, you're basically just going to be good at certain things, which is primarily watching,
There was a movie. It was called Idiocracy.
Yeah, exactly. It's got electrolytes. All right. So Newsom's return to office is looming. State workers' opposition is escalating. So Gavin Newsom's $225 million traffic jam billboard, which I saw, I thought it's kind of funny, actually. It basically is a picture of him standing in a traffic jam. Because I noticed, because I go back and forth to San Francisco, and Folsom often. And a lot of it's, they've been doing construction up for like 3 years. I remember my brother, I used to fly into Kai Tak Airport in Hong Kong. And they basically, the Cathay Pacific planes would have to bank hard left to come in over all the high rises to land. And so they built a brand new international airport with bridges in like 6 months. And we get this flat road, it goes through the Yolo Causeway. It's taken them like 3 freaking years. And we're basically the 4th largest economy in the world. So Gavin, get it together, man. I basically pay taxes. I don't really get a lot of benefit out of it. I don't have any kids. I got grandkids, but we got other family members paying for that. So the idea is I want to be able to get through customs, and I want to, basically no traffic and no potholes. Can you please, for, I pay taxes like the rest of us.
Well, speaking of kids, I love it when you see the car that says baby on board, but the new one is financial burden on board.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically July 1st, mandate go back to work. There's some pushback. We'll see how that happens, because it probably will be challenged, because if the government reasoning behind it is that more productivity, and it turns out that there's no rational relation to that, and there is a rational relation to environmental, basically less pollution and less traffic, which I'm down with. Kind of, it's going to be interesting to see how the courts deal with it.
Why would there even be any type of reasoning like that? We're not talking about a civil right or anything with respect to you can work at home. That's not a civil right. That's not a right anywhere in the Constitution or in the state Constitution.
Well, it would be arbitrary and capricious. So
that's go back to work. Well, now, if I own a business downtown, if I have a restaurant or I have a club, I'm going, no, I want these people back. I want more people coming into town, because it dries up and it kills the downtown area when nobody is actually working down there during the day.
Yeah, downtown San Francisco for quite a while was basically kind of desolate, because people didn't go back to work, and they still haven't.
But they're starting to.
Yeah, the AI boom's coming in, and they're really starting to pop up in terms of occupancy in downtown. But yeah, it did hurt a lot of the businesses for sure. All right, so let's talk about the fun side of large language models. AI Judge Judy weighs in on 3 Florida man stories from her perspective, artificial intelligence perspective, through Claude's Anthropic. After DUI stolen car chase, Florida woman says, hold the lawyer, request burger and fries instead. Let me tell you something, Miss Fails. I just want you to listen, because I'm only going to say this once. You stole a car, you ran red lights, you ran stop signs, you refused to breathalyze, you refused to get out of the stolen car. They had to break a window to remove you, and your defense, your legal strategy, was to invite the arresting officers out for a hamburger and fries. You know what? I've been on the bench for 30 years, and I've seen every flavor of foolishness this country has to offer. But I never, not once, seen someone attempt to negotiate their way out of a DUI with a fast food order. A hamburger, Miss Fails? That's your Johnny Cochran moment? If the bun don't fit, you must have quit. Here's what's going to happen. And that's AI right there. It's just, it basically spit this out. You're going to sit in that jail. You're going to think about your choices. And when the cafeteria slides something through that little slot in the door, you're going to eat it. And you're not going to complain about the condiments. Case closed. Bailiff, I need a moment.
Oh, very nice. Florida woman arrested after skinny dipping in stranger's pool. That's lowercase s on stranger, not a personal name. All right, let me get this straight, because I want to make sure I have the facts correct. A man goes to the doctor. He comes home to his home, the one he pays for, and there are clothes scattered all about the lanai like a yard sale nobody asked for. And then he looks in his pool, the pool he maintains, by the way, and there's a stranger in it. In the nude, doing the backstroke, in a pool she has no business being within 100 yards of. Ma'am, whose pool is it? It's not yours. Did anybody invite you? No. So what are you doing in it? I wanted to swim. There are public pools. There are lakes. There's an ocean right next door. There are water, plenty of bodies of water absolutely everywhere in the state of Florida. You pick the one body of water with a deed attached to it. And here's the part that tells me everything about you. When the deputies told you to get out, politely, I'm sure, you get hostile with them. You're the one trespassing in a stranger's pool with your clothes flung across his patio, and you're the one with the attitude? That takes a special kind of confidence, and not the good kind. When you get dressed, and instead of saying, hey, you know what, I've overstepped, you resisted arrest, you were detained, you've been added to a second charge of swimming in a pool, and then you refuse to give the officers the name, thinking that you were going to hide from them. Ma'am, they go through the old booking photos, and you have 2 photos in there, plural. This wasn't your first instruction or infraction or introduction to law enforcement. It was your third. The system already had your face in it. Refusing to give your name only works if you've never been arrested before. Hostility is not a defense, and you can't withhold your name from a county that already keeps records, and your photo on file, by the way. Case closed.
All right, here we go. The ultimate Florida man story. Florida man goes skinny dipping while outrunning cops. Let me tell you something, Mr. Landman. Listen carefully because I'm only say this once. Got a warrant for you in 2021 because you promised the judge you'd show up to court and you didn't. Sir, your words mean nothing to me, zero. You're a liar. And liars don't get the benefit of the doubt in my courtroom. Then the police came to your house and you won't leave? That's not your house, is it? No. And what's your brilliant plan? You run to a river. Sir, you cannot outswim a radio. Deputies don't have to catch you. They just have to wait. Where are you going, Canada? You're in Brantford, Florida, in a pair of shorts. And then you weren't even in shorts. You were naked. Here's what I don't understand. And you're going to look at me when I'm talking to you. You told the deputies that you were surrendering, and then you swam away. Again, that's the second promise you broke in the same hour. You're a repeat offender of breaking your own word, and it only took about 90 seconds this time instead of a year. And then a neighbor with an underwater camera films you cowering under a dock like a catfish. Do you understand how that looks? The whole neighborhood came out with equipment. People lent the police their boat to come get you. Community organized against you. That's embarrassing. Beauty phase, Mr. Lamb, but dumb is forever. And skinny dipping away from the law in a county river is about as dumb as it gets. You didn't escape anything. You just got wet, lost your shorts, and added resisting arrest to the bill. Put your clothes on and show up in court next time. I'm not here for the entertainment. You can't swim away from a warrant. And a man who breaks his word twice before lunch shouldn't be surprised when nobody hands him a towel.
Ooh.
That was AI Judge Judy. Thanks to Anthropic. That was the show. Thank you for listening. For the best advice, don't think twice. Call Ashton and Price.
You've been listening to the All Things Legal Show with your host, Craig Ashton. For more information, go to ashtonandprice.com or call 916-786-7787. Go to Apple Podcast and download the show if you missed it. Remember, for the best advice, don't think twice. Call Ashton and Price.